What's up, world changers? You already know who it is. It's your girl, Nathalie Nelson Parker, and I'm so excited for our training today. Listen, many of you know me as the grant guru, and we've been talking for the last couple of weeks of how to break through from grant dependency and look at new revenue models. Listen, world changers, I don't have to let you know what it's like out there. It is a different landscape, and we're seeing funding opportunities through grants shrink as organizational budgets shrink and as our political and social climate changes. And so it's really important that, yes, we continue to secure grant funding, that we continue to maintain the relationships that we have with our partners. But it's also important to make sure, just like we diversify our income generation through grants, that we look at other opportunities as well. So I cannot say enough how many people have reached out to me, whether it's through the DMs and conversations or who've reached out for consulting and asked, well, what should these new revenue models look like today? So if you're frustrated, if you're seeing your grant funding shrink, and you're a nonprofit or small business leader and you're looking to do some new things, that's what this training is today. I'm going to show you really quickly in this training how to look for new revenue model streams for our nonprofit leaders, but you can also use this if you are small business owners as well. So do me a favor, friends. If you are enjoying these trainings, please be sure to like, share, comment. It just allows us to reach other world changers and impact leaders like yourself by helping the algorithm a little bit. So please be sure to subscribe to our channel, like, share, comment, and make sure that you're letting us know that this is making a difference in the amazing work that you're doing. I do it because I love you. I do it because I know you're making a difference, and I'm hoping to be a part of your amazing success as an impact leader. All right, so let's get into it. Uh, Far too often enough, and I'm one of those people. You all know that we've been able to scale to multiple six figures because we started with one particular grant, a $15,000 professional development grant that helped us pivot from nonprofit to for profit. And so I am doing these trainings because I do believe in the importance of diversifying your income generation. I believe that grants are a great way to get some cash injection to start your nonprofit without self funding. But I also believe that you need to scale. And a part of scaling is knowing that you cannot depend on unpredictability, right? Grants, as much as we love them, sometimes we have 1 to 3 years between by the time that is not a resource or a funding stream that we can count on. And so we're going to explore some sustainable alternatives to build your financial resilience. And I'm telling you, in the next year to 3 years, that's what your organization needs, whether you're a nonprofit or a small business owner. And listen, I hear what you guys have been saying. I know you're feeling frustrating and overwhelmed. I know that things feel really stressful right now. It feels like you can't catch a break. Things feel way more expensive to do the things that you've done historically from the past. But I want you to know that you are able to pivot, to innovate, and to find the resources that you need to continue to grow your nonprofit or small business. All right. And that's what this information is for today. And so some of you might be experiencing right now the pitfalls of grant dependency, right? The unpredictability from the grant cycle. Sometimes renewals are not guaranteed. We're seeing where planning becomes more reactionary instead of strategic. I've heard so many things, even in our city governments, with federal grants that are just on pause. And so people are losing their jobs, programs are at a halt. And so there's limited growth when it comes to grant dependency because of the restriction of the funds. It really hinders an organization's ability to innovate, and it really hurts the organization to build reserve, which in economic cycles that we're in right now is really, really important, right? And so that ends up making your program vulnerable. When funders don't have the resilience to shift their priorities, right? Those vital services face being stopped. Paused right now might seem okay, but when your at the crossroads when you have to cut programs that are making a difference because you don't have the resources because you're dependent on a grant, that's just something that your work is too important to take the risk for. And so I want you to think about where we are, right? The reality, socially, economically, politically, that our cost to do what we have done historically in the past has increased, right? And even if you get the same grant, right? The Lord blesses you. You have an amazing funding partner. You work with a great organization, and they're giving you that grant for 3 to 5 years at the same amount. Your organizational and administrative overhead will increase every year. And so even if you get the same grant funding, your expenses and your budget bottom line will feel the crunch because you are still operationally increasing in your ability to run your nonprofit or small business, right? And so for every 1% increase in government grant funding, you're also experiencing your own operational flexibility, right? Also some limits to that, right? Sometimes grant funders limit your ability to be adaptable, as well as the complex reporting, bureaucracy, all of the things that come along with grants. Again, this is not saying that you should throw grants away, but we have to deal with the reality of what that means and be sure that we position ourselves to be able to look at other funding patterns and streams. And I want you to think about the real world impact, right? The cycle of disempowerment that happens sometimes with grants. As we pivoted from a nonprofit to a for-profit model, I have to tell you that the things and the skill sets that I've gained through grants have helped me to be able to scale out organizations through contracts, through sponsorships, through donors, through other means. And so again, it's not saying throw the baby away with the bathwater, but how do we take those skill sets and translate them in a more empowering way, right? Right. So if all of our funding is dependent on another person, another agency, another decision maker, there's a level of disempowerment. And so, what I want you to do is take what you've learned from grants and be empowered to make sure that you can move your mission forward, right? Sometimes we have programs and we have to shift, right, to match the funder's priority rather than what we see in community needs. We also have to deal with the fiscal cliffs, right? Suddenly funding cuts, right? Which puts our organizations in crisis. And then there's a service gap. Or there's data drift, right? Metrics serve the funders better and their priorities rather than improving effectiveness. And then our staff suffers through it, right? So we want to make sure that as we deal with the real world impact of the cycle of disempowerment, that we kind of take that power back and make sure that we build nonprofits and small businesses that are empowered and can move forward to make the impact that we're called to make. And some people might say, I've gotten this a lot, but Nathalie, we do events, right? I love it. All streams, all revenue streams are important, but we also want to make sure that we don't do the same thing with our events, right? As we see cost of living is increasing, people might not be spending as much as they did in the past. And so we also don't want to take the same mindset that we had with grants and throw it all into our events as well, because that also can become unpredictable, right? Just so, for instance, we have a client that we work with, and they have a signature event that they have every year. And some years it's 400 tickets sold, some years it's 200 tickets sold, right? This unpredictable revenue pattern. And so if your event success depends on so many factors beyond the organization's control, you want to make sure you put the pieces of the puzzle together. And what I can say is our impact for that specific event grows fiscally every year because we don't determine success only by ticket sales. We also have sponsorships, we also have grants. So that one event has 6 different revenue streams. So if one changes, we're still able to make sure that we meet the mark in terms of income generation. Also, it's labor intense. My goodness, that event gets more expensive every year because of food costs, because of venue costs, all of those different things. So you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket in terms of your one-off fundraising events. And then it also becomes a strategic distraction, right? It's a short-term campaign divert focus from building on sustainable capacity. And that's what I'm talking about today, World Changers. So many people are like, all right, girl, you told me I need to move from just grants alone. You told me I need to move from just events alone. So what do I need to do? Well, go ahead, grab your pen, your pencil, your Palm Pilot, whatever it is that you're using to take notes, because your girl's about to give you the cheat code. All right. When we talk about new revenue models and diversification, I want you to think about fee for service programs. So if you have a signature grant and you've worked with a partner and they've funded you 20, 30, 40, 50, $100 million, whatever it is, I want you to think about, how do I take that program and I convert it to a fee for service program, right? So as opposed to having one grant opportunity, now I can position this program as an offer that people can buy day after day, year after year, month after month. And instead of having one grant, I can have 5 clients that are paying our organization, whether you're a nonprofit or a small business, to monetize your expertise through training and consulting services. Okay, you're welcome. I gave it to you. That's the cheat code, right? How do you go from grant program model to fee for service? And a lot of people, specifically my nonprofit leaders, don't realize that yes, you can be paid for your services even if you're a nonprofit. So if you have a program that works with youth, what would it look like if instead of just giving the program for free through grant funding, you have a contract through your local school district? I can't believe I'm giving you all the cheat codes, baby. Next, I want you to think about social enterprises, right? What are some mission aligned businesses that are generating unrestricted income that could possibly be mission aligned with you, right? What does it look like if you partner with an organization that already has something that aligns with what you have to offer? Then membership models, right? What does recurring revenue look like from engaged supporters that provide a level of stability? We're seeing a lot of people do it, whether um, it's recurring giving for those of us who have nonprofits, whether it's a membership model in terms of those who offer something on a month-to-month basis, and you're able to scale your nonprofit or small business by having a certain amount of members a month. And then last but not least, one of my favorite, corporate partnerships. How do you strategically align to create sustainable value exchanges, right? Some of that could look like contracts. Some of that could look like one-off events. Some of them could look like long-term partnerships. I would say that there is a level of relationship building that has to come there, so that you can understand what corporations align with yours, what opportunities and what solutions you are providing to problems within that corporate sphere, to be considered for that. A lot of that can be, if you look at Essence Fest and you see the people who sponsor them. If you look at HBCUs and the organizations that sponsor them, right? Corporate partnerships can be one-off events, they can be long-term, they can be year after year. But again, it's strategic and it's really about value exchange. What do I have to offer this corporation that solves a problem for them, and that allows us to then introduce a new revenue model. All right, friends. Now, all of this is for us to build sustainably, right? And it also helps us to make sure that our internal culture is curated. All right. So what grants don't allow us to do is to really think about how to predict our revenue stream, how to innovate and be adaptable in a way for us to move our organizations forward. And this is why I'm so passionate about this right now, because our own organization, our consulting firm, is growing so rapidly. And I've seen how we've been able to grow and grow our team, grow our internal systems, grow our reach, even grow with what we have to offer you all, because we've made these shifts, and we've been able to kind of get ahead of what we're seeing happening in terms of the landscape of funding. And so when we talk about building sustainably, number one, you got to have innovation, right? You have to be able to pivot, to be adaptable, and to be flexible based on what is available and what is out there. Two, I think it's important that we have strategic metrics, right? You want to be able to measure not just your income generation, right? But how much are you spending? How much does it take for your organization to grow to where it needs to be, and for that to be effective, right? What does success look like for you? All of us are at different stages of our nonprofit or small businesses. All of us are in different levels in our own leadership capabilities. And so your metrics are going to be strategic and essential in understanding that. And then three, data culture, right? I'm a data driven girly, baby. Okay. If the numbers don't number, it don't make sense. I'm looking at how many hours you worked, how much I paid you, what are all of the data is important, right? Because we don't want to take things personally or emotionally. We want to make sure that we're making concrete decisions based on data. And so it's so important that as we move from this kind of grant dependency model to a sustainable model, that we invest in data literacy across our organization, that we track our diverse fundraising sources and engagement metrics, right? Because as your impact increases, as your funding increases, so should your engagement, right? And understanding what that looks like. Right. And we want to build a culture that values experimentation that's based on data, right? So that we can adapt quickly and be more, instead of reactionary, we can prioritize how we're moving forward strategically as changes happen within the funding landscapes. All right, friends. And this is what I need you to do, whether you're a nonprofit leader or you're a small business leader. I need you to take some actions. All right. So go ahead and write these down. These are going to be really important. As I've shared with you already, some of those new revenue models, these are the steps that I need you to do for you to go ahead and start implementing this on day one. You got to audit your current revenue, right? Identify the risk to your funding portfolio. Measure what are the single sources that you're dependent on, right? So if you have like one or two revenue streams that make up more than, I would say, 60 to 80% of your budget, that's something you got to pay attention to, right? So go ahead and audit your current revenue. And then I want you to think about, how can I explore new opportunities, right? How can I look at this grant opportunity that we have, and how can we position it as a product, good, or service, right? Brainstorm your mission aligned income streams and start with your core expertise. What are you really good at? That is easy for you or your organization, that's harder for other people. That's your selling point. That's going to help you open new funding doors and opportunities, because you have an expertise that's solving a problem for someone. And I want you to build your experimentation capacity, right? Create small pilot projects, learn from your failures before scaling success, right? Start small. Do not despise small beginnings. I'm going to get the Bible on you, right? It started out with the $5,000 grant, $15,000 grant. We're still doing the same things, but we're able to charge exponentially more because we started out small, we were able to measure the impact, and we knew how to scale and to grow up, right? And that's so important in order for you to do the last thing, which is measure your progress. Set clear metrics for financial resilience, understand how to report regularly to all your stakeholders, whether that's your team, whether that's your investors, your partners, your clients. Be sure that you have some system so that you can measure your project progress and project your success. All right, friends, that's all I have for you for this training. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember, show us some love. Our team is working really hard to make sure that we can give you the information and the insight you need to make and grow your impact as a nonprofit or small business leader. So you can show us some love by subscribing to our YouTube channel, making sure that you like, share with other world changers like yourself, and let us know that this is working for you and that it has been helpful for you. Also, we have so many freebies, we have so many training opportunities, and we have an amazing webinar for you. Just go ahead and look in the links below and listen, world changers. No matter who you are, no matter where you are in your nonprofit or small business journey, I want you to know that you are able to do big and amazing things. So don't limit yourself. The best is yet to come.